Peugeots remain in front here in the 13th running of the Petit Le Mans. The 62, Tony Vilander, on pit road. He had his problems earlier with the contact with the Ford GT of David Murray. Vilander looks like he's going to stay in and out. Is it
Jimmy Bruni behind the wheel? There was a driver change there. Seems like all of these leading GT2 teams are doing fuel and Ford tires, and I think they may shake up that strategy a little bit later in the race. I know that Risi have looked at maybe just changing outside tires on some of their stops. Why do they do that? You think they're in pit lane? Well, it just shaves off vital seconds. You've got 2 guns available. You can change those outside left side tires much quicker than having to go to both sides of the car.
Jimmy Bruni tries to come up to speed, but it was the 61 of Mika Salo who flashed by there in the red Ferrari at the bottom of the screen with the yellow window banner. Salo now second in the GT category. It's Patrick Long who leads it, and Jimmy Bruni pulls back on track, and he is now a lap down, and part of that is due to the problem that Tony Vilander had earlier, and certainly cycling of the pit stops has something to do with that as well. But Vilander's mistake is proving to be very costly. Patrick Long onto pit road.
There you see him. It looked like it's going to be a driver change, so Pat kind of pushing that seat back. An adjustable seat on the Porsche. And the partner has slightly longer legs. It's like Lee Diffie getting out and me getting in.
Well, you guys are having a little bit of fun up there. We're going to get serious down here in pit lane. These guys, now Calvin, I know you love strategy, so mark this one in your book. These guys went 1 lap longer than the 62 car and 2 to 3 laps longer than the other Ferraris and the Corvette team. So early on in this race, these guys already stretching their fuel. Talking with the team earlier this morning, they were still making some small adjustments trying to get the setup right because the car wasn't very good early on in the stint. So new tires, when the temps and the pressures weren't up, it was taking this car a little while to come to life. It was great over the long run, but it just wasn't coming to life really quick. So this team's looking great now, but we've got a long race in front of us.
They just need to execute, Chris. They've got to look at the big picture first, which is that driver championship. Jörg Bergmeister going for a remarkable 5 GT titles here in the American Le Mans Series here today. There you see him adjusting his belts as he's on the way out of the pit lane. Just trying to get up to speed. You know what, we've got to get over the hands device there. There you see he's got to get that over the hands device for that hands device to work correctly.
We talked about the 70% rule at the beginning of the show. You're looking right now, lap 74. They've got to go 297 laps to get to 70%. So that's huge. I mean, you got to stay out of trouble. Don't get any of these penalties. Just keep the car out there. And then after that, you can go race.
Sharing that car with Mark Lieb as well. We talked about Mark earlier, his engineering background and certainly his driving prowess. He's been a guest with this team since 2006. It's his 5th consecutive Petit Le Mans, and he has helped Jörg Bergmeister to wins in championships, wins at Sebring, wins at Petit. It's just a pretty stellar driver lineup. You'd have a hard time finding a better lineup to put in a Porsche. You see the 04 car now pulling out.
Yeah, Mark Lieb, one of the best in one of these GT cars. He had a remarkable season. He won the European version of the American Le Mans Series called the ALMS. He also won at Le Mans alongside Wolf Hensler and Richard Leet, so he's had a tremendous season. He's also been involved, as we've talked about earlier, in the development of that hybrid car that runs here today.
Well, Mark Lieb was one of those young Porsche drivers many years ago who said, I don't want to be just a driver. I need more than that for it. When my driving career is done, what will I do? And as many of the Porsche factory drivers are, he's very well educated. You'll find several of these guys with multiple college degrees, finance, economics, engineering, what have you.
Unlike us.
And Mark Lieb is one of those guys. Patrick Long in the hunt for a championship. It would be his 3rd. It would be the 5th for Jörg Bergmeister. He just climbed out of the 45.
Yeah, Pat Lang was all smiles when he got out of the car. Pat, it was crazy out there these first couple hours. Listening to my scanner, drivers just talking about the traffic constantly. How bad from your perspective?
Well, it's tight. It's nothing like Lime Rock or a street course, but it does keep your attention. It's always tough here with the S's and 12, but everybody's being pretty good out there. I think they're being patient. For us, it was hard to sit there and swallow our pride, let the Corvette and the Ferrari stuff us in 10A, but in the end, we're here to win a championship at 75%. Hopefully they're not in our way because we got a little payback coming for them.
How conservative are you playing it?
Well, I'm trying to be smart, but I'm running as hard as I can. We want to have a good balance. We're going to work on the car all through the race and try to improve it with tire pressures, maybe some wing changes, and then at the end, we really want to go. But we got to get to that 75% mark. There's a lot of guys out there in GT2 that are racing for, you know, the win right now, and it's early in the race. So it's hard to suck it up and just say, all right, I'm not going to get into this battle, but it's a good exercise for keeping the ego checked in at the door.
Well, these guys have a long day in front of them, but it sounds like they're doing it right.
He's trying to make it even more difficult.
Yeah.
He wants to get to 75%.
Maybe that's what the team have told him, just in case he gets to 69 and starts to go too early.
See the 0-4 on pit road.
David Murray not having aggressive days. He's been 2 altercations. This one, he's getting his stop and go plus 20.
This is for a supervisor working on the car. So there's regular crew, then someone who directs David in. He's not supposed to touch the car, I believe. That is the reason for it. So stop and hold plus 20 seconds, not the 60 we believe that we saw for the avoidable contact with either GT cars here today.
David Murray will sit there, and it probably feels like an hour as he heads back out. And you guys are right, he has been beat up today. But as we said, that new Ford GT that Robertson Racing has built up along with the help from Dick Barber is just immaculate. It'll be great. I know Rob Bell, Anthony Lazzaro itching to get behind the wheel of it as well when David Murray comes in and does the next round of pit stops. There's the 16. Z flashes by. Andy Merrick behind the wheel running second in the LMP2 category right now. Good to see Merrick back behind the wheel. He was with the team at Sebring, also with the team at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Been busy this year.
Yeah.
He ran with Aston Martin at Silverstone a few weeks ago in the first round of the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup, and he also ran at Le Mans, of course, with a great solid 4th place run behind the diesels in the Orica petrol powered car there.
Look at the speed differential, the P2 car to the GT Challenge car that just went by. There's the Porsche Hybrid trying to hold on to the back of him a little bit. Wait a minute, where is
Using that boost pedal. I'm going to have him.
That is an amazing piece of technology that they have.
160 horsepower on tap over the top of a 480 that they have from the regular combustion engine. So that is a formidable piece.
Electric
when the
motors.
drivers hits that paddle.
Electric motors on that car that provide that horsepower run the front wheels off axles. They actually work as generators under braking to bring electricity in and store on the flywheel, and then the flywheel, of course, disperses it and turns the motor back into a motor from a generator. So pretty cool.
Well, Doris, we know they're learning a lot about that hybrid motor this weekend, but they're also learning about how that car is handling. And one problem that they've been having is tires letting go. And the driver's telling me that, hey, we're not hitting any debris out there, but the left front has exploded twice on that car. So everybody down here just kind of scratching their heads trying to figure out what's going on with that setup, because they've never seen this before. And all week long, they didn't have any issues with tires. But now, once we're in the race, 2 tires letting go early on.
Well, you guys were just talking about the drive to the front wheels, 160 horsepower on tap. When you squeeze that paddle and gets split between the front tires, it gets split with an electronic differential, a computer that reads it. But Dorsey, a front-wheel drive car is going to wear those front tires more. In addition to cornering, they also pull.
Well, that's new now, the pull part of it. And of course, left front is the tire that really gets abused down in turn 12 and turn 1. And that straightaway between those two isn't long enough to cool the tires. So if they're having a too soft compound, we don't know. It's, they'll be looking hard at that.
Front axles on that hybrid off a Porsche Panamera. That's what we need. A little back
That's not
rub
even a
right
driver, it's one of the crew guys.
Getting a little back rub down in pit lane. The Petit Le Mans, it's 10 hours or 1,000 miles. It's hard on crew, drivers alike. There's Greg Pickett looking on, trying to will his team onto a championship. Petit Le Mans, we've got a long, long way to go. Back at Petit Le Mans, we've got plenty of great shots from outside the car, but we've got great ones from inside as well. The ultimate 2-screen experience. It's Speed's onboard pass presented by Porsche. Get more at speed.com. American Le Mans. Right on board right there with Gunnar Jeanette. And there's Bob Rodriguez from the 69 car. Bit of a problem coming through turn 12 last time down. Take a look at this. I got it. No, not so much. But I haven't hit anything. Yet. Staying with it. Staying with it. Wink.
The rear wing gets buckled a little bit. Here's another look at it from a different angle. A wild ride.
Oh, that
Just
was
gets
wild.
a little bit wrong. Woo! Tries to correct right at apex. That is high-speed stuff there. He is very lucky there's not more severe damage to that Porsche race car.
There's the little bump. And I'll tell you, Rodriguez and Galen Beaker have done a good job this year. They've been on the podium the last 2 races that they've run. There's a problem for the 36 car as, that's not a small problem. No, that was
Figgy
not.
behind the wheel. And that's a shame, because this team was definitely a factor for a win here today with the driver lineup and the team that they have behind them.
Yeah, and Figge came back and stepped back into motorsports and ran at Salt Lake City with the 52 team. The BR1 Mathiasen team had a good run, finished on the podium there in third, but a problem here. He got bitten there in turn 7. Slowest corner on the racetrack, but it's bitten a lot of people so far this week.
You know, you're so intent on getting to the power early there because it drives you down this big long straightaway that guys always inevitably carry a little bit too much speed, get on the throttle a little bit too hard, and then what turns into a simple slow corner is a wreck.
Now you can see the speed differential from the helicopter. That is the 9 car, and I think, did he just come to pit road or is he flashing
That's
there?
McNish, I believe, is the yellow topped.
You can
He
see
stays
yellow.
out on the
You
racetrack.
got good eyes.
That's McNish. So he's currently second. Montagny still leads, but he's off sequence with Allen and the rest of the boys. So I would expect that Montagny will be hitting pit lane within the next 3 to 5 laps max, I would say, because he's been out there an awful long time now. Remember, that car, the 08 that currently leads the Peugeot, elected not to make that first caution stop, so they're out of sequence.
I was just talking with Brad Kendler a few minutes ago, obviously the highly respected American-based engineer with Audi, and I was asking him, how come, after actually being relatively slow compared to the Peugeot during practice and qualifying, are you able to keep such a strong pace with them now we come to race time? And he said one of the problems was their testing here was in almost 40-degree temperature, and it does appear that the Audi is much more aero-sensitive than the Peugeot is. So the Peugeot has more mechanical grip. So when the temperature gets exactly to the almost the optimum operating sort of range and density for the Audi, they actually start to perform better, and they're able to really work the chassis. So not only are their 2 drivers doing an extraordinary job, but actually the gap is close to the Peugeot, although he says when it starts to cool down, it'll be interesting to see if their calculations mean that they can stay with the Peugeot at that point. So we'll see, but there's a lot going on here, but it's no accident that the Audi is now able to run up there with the Peugeot.
And Justin, the drivers have been relating a similar story to us this weekend. Talking to Tom Christensen earlier in the week, he said, yeah, the car's good, but it's very sensitive to what we call the sweet spot, where the car is really balanced and has good grip. And it's a moving target because these conditions are going to change through the course of this day as the track temperature drops as we get towards the last couple of hours of the race. That's the critical time. Spoke to Alex Wirtz the other night. He said the race really starts from the last caution on, and that's when you want the car at its best.
The battle in LMP. What about the battle in GT2, where it's Mika Salo who leads that class in the 61 Risi Competizione Ferrari out of turn 6, slowing it down a couple more gears down through turn 7, slowest corner on the racetrack, and now down the long straightaway. It's Oliver Gavin running in second right now, and then Johnny O'Connell running third. So we've got Corvettes 2 and 3, and we're seeing some good performance. Gavin only about a half a second back at the line the last time behind Salo.
Yeah, Salo going for 3 in a row here at Petit. Teamed up with Jamie Mello last couple of years, and up until Le Mans this year, the Risi team had a remarkable run going, 2 straight years winning every endurance race, including Sebring, Le Mans, and Petit Le Mans. So Mika has visited victory lane here many times before.
You see Ali Gavin there in the Corvette, not that far behind. That's pretty good competitive racing going on right there.
But you got to think about it. We saw Mika Salo at Lime Rock, and he climbed out of the car, and obviously Lime Rock Dorsey was a very, very hot event, and he admitted and said, I'm just not in good enough physical shape to do this. He hasn't been doing a whole bunch of racing. To be in this car, it's nice that the weather is reasonably good, but he's being hounded by 2 guys that are in tip-top shape. Ali Gavin ran another marathon this year, and it was his best time ever. So the guy right behind him is in good shape. Mika Salo hopefully has been in the gym, because otherwise Ali Gavin's going to be taking it to him.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that this car's running 3 drivers. I think certainly Jamie Mello would be fine, but I think they're a little concerned about Mika being able to split the distance with him. Hence we've got Giancarlo Fisichella, who's done a few races here this year as well, joining that, making it a trio of drivers in that particular Ferrari.
Luckily here, unlike Lime Rock, you've got this very long straightaway that we're on right now, where you can really just relax. You're not doing much except pulling the button to get the next gear and taking a look around.
Run on board with, that was João Barbosa, but the leader is now on pit road, 08, the Peugeot. Chris?
Yeah, we've got a driver change. Stefan Sarrazin taking over for Frank Montagny, so we're going to see tires go on this car. He had about a 25-second lead overall, so he's obviously going to give up the top spot. But looking at the tires coming off the car, it's amazing. They look relatively clean, So not a lot of pickup on the racetrack. So I would say that not a lot of tire debris out there yet, but obviously later in this race, I have a feeling we're going to see these tires come in, and they're just going to be a complete mess. But real clean stop by this team. 2 fuel tires, and they're down and away.
Chris, that's exactly what we were noticing as we were watching prototypes go around GT cars moments ago, and I thought the same thing. I don't see a lot of marbles, a lot of tire debris out there, but I got to believe as we go, we're going to get more of that. Right now, the prototypes can make those wide passes outside of turns 3 and 4. Later in the day, I wonder if that's going to be the case.
Well, I think what's happening right there is that there's so much traffic out there, there's no choice but these guys to go around the outside, so they're actually cleaning or self-cleaning the racetrack, where normally you wouldn't be out there. Well, they have to be out there because of the traffic, so I think it's actually playing to their hand.
And look how gingerly he's being right now, trying to get some temperature in those tires. We're seeing these prototypes whistle down through the S's. He's probably a good 15, 20 miles an hour off his optimum pace there on this outlap, Dorsey.
Yeah, I mean, it's tenuous when you got those cold tires, and with the kind of horsepower these things are making, and you know, you just touch the throttle a little bit too much and it's going to turn around on you.
Right now, it's Alan McNish on the pit stop sequences, back into the lead with a great lap the last time by, but we've got a long way to go. More than just American Le Mans Series here at Road Atlanta this weekend. A double header for the Patron GT3 Championship, and there were championships on the line there as well. Race number 1 of the weekend started under very damp conditions, and Ross Smith in the number 5 Porsche had already claimed the championship in the Platinum class, but he was holding nothing back, battling with the 16 of Chris Cummings and Smith to the point, and he would stay up front all the way until a red flag was brought out, allowing the competitors to come to pit road, changing their rain tires for race slicks. And the race continued. Ross Smith continued to do what he had done in the early stages, lead all the way to the checkered flag, putting an exclamation mark on his championship run in 2010. In the gold class, Enrique Cisneros held on to finish second. He would claim the championship in the gold division, but what about David Hansen? He takes the victory in the gold class in his first ever appearance in the Patron GT3 Challenge. Plenty of excitement all weekend long in Patron GT3 Challenge. More excitement coming up from Petit Le Mans right after this. Right on board the Risi Competizione Ferrari of Mika Salo, the number 61, and he is using a lot of curve down there in turn 5. But what you see is the yellow number 4 of Ollie Gavin now to the lead in the GT2 class. Before we went to break, it was Mika Salo who was holding down the point. We talked about the pressure that Ollie Gavin was beginning to exert. Finally, that pressure has paid off. Gavin to the point in GT2, and it's great to see the Corvettes running as strong as they are here. We keep talking about they have not won. The 4-car has been on the podium 3 times this year. And remember, there was a poll at Road America. They're beginning to find some speed, but is it going to be a little too late, or are they going to come away with a victory this weekend?
Well, I'm kind of questioning right now how Ollie Gavin opened up that big of a gap over Mika, because, I mean, they were running together for quite a while. Now the Corvette is just setting sail. I'm wondering if there's something possibly wrong with the Ferrari.
Well, we saw Mika just a few laps ago over the curbs big time at the exit of 5. Just when we came back from the break, he used him again, not nearly the way he had used him before. So he is wringing the neck of that Ferrari, but perhaps it's just not responding the way he wants it to, up and over the curb into 3.
Yeah, last time we were watching this car on board down through here, he was really, as you said, using everything up on that Ferrari, particularly coming through turn 5 here. He's up and over the curbs, and that really jars the drivetrain. So surprised they're being that aggressive. He's using a lot more road than that. He kind of slows it up a little bit with the Jag in front of him. So I think Mika will see that carrot out in front of him now. He'll try and hang on to that Corvette and certainly be within shouting distance. So when they get to the next round of pit stops, maybe the team can work some magic and leapfrog the car around him.
Yeah, because once he was by him, as you said, Dorsey, I mean, Gavin has been able to pull a pretty good gap. You saw the 88 in there as well, the GT Challenge car. This is how the pass was made. Right on board with Mika Salo. That is the Porsche Hybrid in front, and then the 40 Robertson Ford GT in front.
Got held up right there, had to get off the throttle. I'm sure Ollie saw that happening, backed away again. In fact, here he comes right up the inside.
Just got the run and then split.
Well, there's probably the gap immediately. Look, suddenly Mika's 2 cars between he and Ollie Gavin, just like that.
And we talked about this at the beginning of the weekend, guys, when we showed up and were watching traffic through here. We said things like this were going to happen. Slower cars there in front who balk a little bit there at the apex of turn 12 stacks up the run. And if you're the 3rd or 4th guy in line, you may get a better run through the corner. And that's indeed what Ollie Gavin has done.
Well, Brian, I just checked in with Reese as you guys were speculating potentially a problem with that Ferrari, but the team just saying, they're just telling Mika, hey, we got to be cool. We got a long way to go, so let's not push too hard. So I think that's what you might be seeing, is him just playing a little bit more conservative out there than maybe the previous few laps.
Yeah, he just got snookered in
That's
traffic.
exactly what I was going to say.
I mean, Gavin saw that all taking place, and he backed off the throttle and then got back on the throttle and got that run down into turn one. And then he went around one of the four GTs at the same point and opened up, got put two cars between them.
And that's one of the things about the classes, the GT2 classes, the GT Challenge class, and the LMP Challenge class. The speed differential is not that great, especially under acceleration. Your ability to time a pass, to strategize, to get it done, even over other classes, is going to be critical here.
Yeah, you'll get into the rhythm of that as to where the cars are slow and how you need to time where you accelerate the car. It's almost like driving a car with a turbo. It's like, where do you want to squeeze the power on? So as you come off the corner, you're in the ideal spot for it to take its set and go past the car in front of you.
You can see it right there. I mean, as we rode on board, that P2 car made the pass, but didn't really have much more top speed. In fact, when they got to the brake zone down at the bottom, that's the only place where you really saw a variance in speed.
And you'll notice what that did was it balked Ollie Gavin just a little bit there at the apex of 10A, and now Mika Salo has closed back up on him a little bit. So that traffic, it gives and it takes away. As you look at the Peugeot just flash around the outside.
I'll tell you what, that's where it gets hairy, because that GT2 machine of Ollie Gavin, that needs to use more of the road. As he's coming through that apex of that corner, he can't hug the curb. It's just going to push him out, and as the Peugeot's going around him, the Peugeot has to read that, recognize that the arc of the traffic is going to increase as he gets through the corner.
Well, Ollie Gavin got by and pulled out a bit of a gap. It is now completely evaporated as Mika Salo has crawled his way back to the rear wing of that Corvette in front. Salo now with his sight set will look at top speed here down the back straightaway and see if he can gain, or if the Corvette has a little bit of muscle.
Well, we saw Jamie Mello earlier in this race, in this very race car, make a move on Jan Magnussen, doing the very same thing. He may have been a little bit closer and pulling the draft a little bit stronger. Here we see the Drayson machine going down to the inside. Paul Drayson behind the wheel right now. Of course, those guys had that remarkable win at Road America. They've had a couple of poles this year, shown tremendous speed, and they've had a very busy season with that Drayson car. But here we see the gap, the split between Gavin and Salo over the last 5 laps or so.
And it's just ebb and flow as the higher speed traffic comes through, or as they catch some of the slower GT Challenge type cars, and it just moves back and forth. Once again, we're still early into this thing. You look up, just over 2 hours gone in this 13th running of Petit Le Mans, and as into the races you want to be as a driver, and yeah, you want to move forward. Dorsey, how do you tell yourself, I've got to be cool, calm, and collected. I just need to do my job.
You know, if you're in this for the championship, which so many of these guys are, they're still looking for that 70% of the race distance. We're not even halfway to 70% yet.
Wow. Salo willing to split that GT Challenge car there, doing anything, and a problem for the number 9.
Marcel Fessler is off the road.
He's been through the gravel trap and safely will re-enter the racetrack.
It's on the braking zone for the chicane. He gone straight, kept out of the gravel trap, and kept on the grass areas. One of the Peugeots comes up to get around him.
And this is one of the problems we've seen when the Audi goes off the road or drops the wheels. It's like you talked about earlier, Calvin.
That was for position right there. That was for the second spot on the road. Fessler with his mistake adverts us up to second in the first of the Peugeots.
Really surprised that the Audi didn't make a pit stop when that off was right before pit in, just to have things checked out. Because if something happens now, it's a long way home, isn't it?
Well, the thing that's interesting is what called Fessler to go off the road. Is it traffic that comes down into the braking zone for 10A? We'll find out. Gets down there, yeah, indeed.
Misjudged the speed of that challenge car, didn't get out of his way, and then suddenly couldn't cut to the inside. His only option was to stay straight, Dorsey.
What a great decision on his part, though, Dorsey, to say, look, I'm going to go drive off the road.
He expected that challenge car to turn into the apex much quicker and be out of his way. He was still there and suddenly had to make that decision.
And he had the presence of mind knowing once he made that he had to get back on the throttle and drive through that gravel trap. Now he's trying to eat back in the tires and get the debris off the tires that he would have gotten by going off-road just then.
Well,
trouble here is one of the cars in the slow, one of the
I think that's the same car, isn't it, that he came up on
89.
before.
That's Kyle Marcelli there, the 89 in the LMP Challenge class.
I wonder if he slowed up that much just to let the pass happen. It was really awkward right there for a moment.
Well, we said at the very beginning of the show, traffic would be an issue here, and you followed it all day long, and you can become a follower of the American Le Mans Series on Twitter. Read and receive up-to-the-minute tweets from the American Le Mans Series to get the latest news and notes on and off the track. You can find the series at ALMS Notes. Check it out.
Not sure that car's up to speed all the way. We know Marcelli's very quick in that. Bunch of spent rubber starting to fall out of there. Maybe he just got offline and got pickup on it.
It's David Ducote being shown in the car right now. So maybe they've just come in for a pit stop. David Ducote, it was Marcelli who had been in it, had the car up to the lead. Now David Ducote, who ran back at Sebring, back in the car. It's been quite a while since he's been in the car and just not quite up to speed yet. But Alan McNish, the Scottish Terrier, as Calvin calls him, out in front in his Audi.
The American Le Mans Series, world-class drivers, premier road courses, and cutting-edge technology. Born in France in 1923, with the first running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the American Le Mans Series is the glory and the grueling reality of world-class sports car racing. Drivers from around the world strut their speed, skill, and endurance. 4 separate classes racing on the track at the same time. It is the chain that connects the new and the faithful sports car fans of an extraordinary racing tradition. This is the American Le Mans Series.
Welcome back to live action from the pits here at Petit Le Mans. Now, debate has always raged over, are racing drivers really athletes? And I can tell you from personal experience that they certainly are. These cars are very hot inside. It's a very aggressive environment. And so there's a lot of technology behind the way they prepare. So John Gled is here with Dyson Racing, is applying science to the human technology. And a tremendous amount is about the pre-preparation.
That's correct. We start pre-hydrating our drivers 2 days in advance so they will dehydrate less during the race. Every driver is prescribed a certain amount of electrolytes to drink based on body weight and on the physical endurance they require during the event.
You've got 2 colors here. You've got a pink one and a yellow one.
Well, these are different formulas for the drivers. Each driver is prescribed their own formula of how much to drink, and they all have different prescriptions to get their optimum performance.
And obviously their base fitness level is very important. I know, like Guy Smith runs marathons. I mean, these drivers these days are incredibly fit. Now, one of the old adages was, I used to be told by, when I was with Viper, the doctor, when my pee ran clear, life was good. Is that not the case?
Well, our guys have expensive urine, and they deserve it. I don't mind them having a little more electrolytes than they require, because at least we know they're getting what they need. And yeah, they're worth it, and they have expensive urine, yes.
I've never heard that before. I've been told lots of things, but the other thing about these cars is they now carry AC in them, and sometimes we used to see cockpit temperatures in GT cars of up to 150 degrees. But now with the ACs and the monitoring, it actually is about 95 degrees in there, about 15 degrees cooler than ambient.
Well, correct. Right now we're running about 34 degrees C in the cockpit. We're about 10 degrees less than what would normally be there, and it's not a wonderful environment, but it's better than what you had in your day, Justin.
This is happening in every pit up and down the paddock here. So if you think the race is competitive on the track, it's also competitive amongst the drivers. A lot of technology is advancing our sport. Guys?
Well, and the ex-drivers, our physical fitness is important as well, Justin. You said by your personal appearance, so we looked at you on camera. I know Dorsey was hydrating in his motorhome the other day. Dorsey, I mean, when you drove, I mean, let's think about how hot the cars really were. Think about the science that Justin was talking about. We didn't have that.
No, there wasn't anything like that. You drank water back then, and the cars were very, very hot. See the 07, speaking of hot, it's got all of his brake temperatures pretty warm.
Remember crawling in, it looks like they're going to be doing a driver change. Looks like the 01 being showed on timing and scoring in the pit road as well. I don't know if that's just a mistake on the monitor, but the 7, I should say.
7 and the 07 are both on
so they're in
right
together. McNish had a great run up to the front, was putting in some spectacular lap times, and it was interesting when I looked at the qualifying speeds from last year. While the Peugeots were very quick and the Audis were second, it seems like the gap had been closed this year, and the Audi always seems to race just a little bit better. McNish climbing out of the 7, like Dindo Capello is getting in. That silver helmet, telltale mark of Capello. He's the one who had the problem the other day up in turn 3, Dorsey.
And they're going to have to really watch now because both cars taking on tires. These are so twitchy for the first lap or two. Till you get tire pressure and temperature up, they can just snap and spin from underneath you.
Anthony Davidson called it a beast. He said these diesel beasts the other day. So that's just the way it is. I mean, when it is good, it's good. But until the tires get warm, it is definitely a handful. Chris, what do you have on tires?
Well, we just saw Anthony Davidson get behind the wheel of the 07 Peugeot, and I'm looking at the tires coming off the car, and I noticed this on the 08 when they came in too. The rear tires, the tire and the wheel, the amount of diesel soot on that, we just didn't see that at Le Mans. And you know, one of the things with these diesels is they're not supposed to have a lot of diesel smoke coming out of the exhaust. But this weekend, I think we're seeing more than we've ever seen. And when you see that diesel exhaust, that means they're really turning that motor up. They're trying to get more horsepower, more torque out of it. They're pushing more air through the motor. So one thing we're seeing is a lot of that soot building up on the rear tires.
That's the way you get power out of a diesel, right, Dorsey? You feed it fuel.
Well, the more fuel you feed it, absolutely, and the more boost you run through the turbocharger, it's gonna do that. You can see it right there coming down the front straight. It's just puffing out that black soot. That was something that they were very, very hesitant to want to have, or not have, I should say, when they brought these diesels in. They said, okay, we don't want all that big black sooty smoke all over the place, because imagine following that car, if you will, if it was blowing all that right in your face.
After the pit stops, it's Stefan Sarrazin in the 08 who takes over the point. Alan McNish running second right now. Then the 07 of Anthony Davidson. And Davidson, we saw that very aggressive driving back at Le Mans, not only coming into the pits, but on the racetrack as well. And one of the things he said here was, I don't know this racetrack all that well. I need to just settle down, drive the car. And yet we watched him the other night in practice, Dorsey, get into it with another car on the racetrack. When you've had that reputation kind of working with you for a while, what do you need to do to kind of tune that back a little bit? I mean, obviously these cars are rocket fast, but you got to respect what you've got. You've got to respect the other cars on the racetrack as well.
Well, I think we've had such a clean race so far because of what Bo Barfield said in the drivers' meeting. And in essence, what he said, particularly pertaining to right past here as you go into the essence, he goes, if you guys in the prototype cars get abusive and you hit a GT car, he goes, I'm not even going to review it and see how it happened. If a GT car and a prototype's involved, I'm going to park the prototype. I want to park you down in pit lane for a minute. He goes, so don't take that risk to get that extra half a second over a GT car. I'm going to be parking you for a minute. So I think because of that, these the prototype drivers and the GT drivers all along they're really, really working well together.
Sarrazin onto the front straightaway. Remember, it was the 08 who took the victory last year, Montagny and Sarrazin. Looks to me like what we call the cheese, which is one of these little devices on the back. On the right rear seems to be potentially loose, bouncing just a little bit on the back of the Peugeot 908.
Yeah,
right there, it's separated.
Yeah, it's broken on the down plate. Good eyes there, Brian.
So right now, the 08, Sarrazin out in front, but perhaps beginning to have some problems showing the signs of wear just after about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Talk about the signs of wear. Alan McNish in the car for a long time here at the beginning. He has climbed down, and he is down in pit road.
Hey, Scottish Terriers don't get tired, mate, not like those French. Alan, that was a very, very tough opening stint, but it looked like the tires were coming towards you to keep a very high pace.
I think more the circuit was coming towards us, you know. If you look back through the history of Audi, we've always raced better than we qualified, and it appears that that's still the case. Don't really know why, to be honest with you, but the circuit grip building up, I think helps us a little bit more than it looked like to be helping Peugeot.
You're the first driver I've had a chance to talk to about the traffic. You're cleanly getting through it. Almost had a little nerf there earlier in the middle of your stint. It looks actually as though people are behaving quite well.
Yeah, they've got to. You know, Bob Barfield was very clear in the drivers' meeting, and correctly so, that, you know, we've all got to survive out there, and if we have contact, there's penalties. The difficulty is you're racing for a big prize, and you can easily lose 5 seconds just behind a GTC car in 2 corners, and 5 seconds is the margin of victory potentially.
In summary, what kind of race car did you just hand over to your teammate?
Better than expected, a lot better than expected.
We just need to be saying that in 8 hours, Alan. Great job, mate. Good job, guys.
That's good news for them. There is a new aerodynamic package on the Audi R15 that they debuted, and they said it's a lot more downforce, but they haven't given up too much as far as drag goes, and that's exactly what you want. As the temperatures come to this team, car seems to be responding better and better. There's always drama at Petit Le Mans, and we still have a long way to go from here at Road Atlanta, the 13th running of this great event. Stefan Serzen, the Peugeot, still out in front. Can they make it 2 in a row, or will Audi reclaim their dominance? Plenty of stories yet to be told from here at Road Atlanta on a great, great October day. 13th running of Petit Le Mans started at the drop of the green. Peugeot's out in front. Alan McNish trying to work his way to the front. Almost immediately, John Field having a good run up as well. McNish charging around the outside of the Peugeot down through the S's and picks up yet another spot. The weather this weekend, absolutely fantastic. Peugeot's fighting back. 08 retakes the point. And then a problem for Bill Sweedler down in turn 12.
Big impact down in turn 12, and luckily the car, of course, didn't survive too good. The driver was fine. 6 car, the Porsche engine with a misfire. They've been working all day trying to find it, that have not been able to make it run the way it should.
A little excitement in GT2. Tony Vilander into the 04, punts David Murray. Vilander will have to come to pit road. That's not the only contact that we saw. We did see some great battles in GT2. Dirk Mueller into the side of Shane Lewis. Bo Barfield didn't like that. Dirk Mueller to pit road to serve a stop-and-go penalty. He'd had to do that, as well as Tony Vilander. Then more problems for the BMW squad. As they come to pit road to do their pit stop, Mueller out, Joey Hand in, the car wouldn't restart.
Starter motor went bad. It's not an easy starter motor to get to. Another contact, that time David Murray. Again, he does a spin. No penalty on that one because it was self-serving.
Look at the field down the front straight away. The 4 uses traffic. It was Ollie Gavin using traffic to pick Mika Salo, keep him back out there. Then a problem for Mika Salo, that right front. Was it locked all that way, Dorsey? Is there a suspension issue with that?
Yeah, either suspension issue or something got up in the brake rotor, rock or something got up there, and it had the right front not able to turn.
Look at this, the 08. Alan McNish having a good run of it. Stefan Serzen now behind the wheel of the 08, and Alan McNish running very hard, but it's Serzen out in front. Dindo Capello has taken over for the 7. Problems for Jaguar. We saw problems with the 33 car early on, but now understand more problems as well. Chris?
Yeah, Paul Gentilozzi sitting down on pit wall down here dealing with a little bit of frustration. Paul, we talked about the 33 earlier. Now the 75 being pushed behind the wall. What happened?
Well, from the telemetry we can see just after turn 5, the water temp started to get cooler. That meant that the belt broke. He drove it down to the corner, not having any idea, up the straightaway. At that point, the water was about 300 degrees, and it's damaged the engine. We're trying to fix it. We'll do our best to bring it back.
You guys dove into GT competition at one of the most competitive years. What do you need to focus in on the off-season to come out swinging next year?
Well, it's really infrastructure. We've been through the year. We've failed everything that can fail on the car. Now we have to go back and have the time to fix those things. It's a common element in a couple cases, and we need our reliability to finish races.
Well, obviously, 300 degrees in water temperature, not a good thing, but hopefully this team can get the car back out on the racetrack.
They do all the engine program in-house on that. They've had some porosity problems with the cylinder head actually leaking internally, etc. Things that can be fixed will be fixed. But like Chris was saying, a new effort this year by Paul Gentilozzi in the Rocket Sports guys, and really not enough time in 1 year to develop a car from scratch.
Stefan Serzen continues to lead, but Dorsey, we saw earlier that bodywork on the right rear, just behind the right rear tire, has broken off. And the question is, with only 2 hours and 25 minutes down in this race, even though we are setting a record pace right now, and there was a record pace set at Le Mans, don't forget, even though we're going very quickly, we got a long way to go to reach the mileage totals. Will they have to replace that under tray or that rear bodywork?
I wonder if that bodywork actually got broken from contact with another car, or did it just break from vibration? We talked about the fact that there was a very bad winter here in Atlanta, and that the racetrack is unusually rough. This place not known for a rough racetrack, but you see these prototypes, and when they go down the hill through turn 12, they're taking a heck of a pummeling. And I don't know if that broke from vibration, but if it starts to flop around too much, they will have to attend to it.
Well, I was going to say, it's certainly not going to self-heal. So that right now, there's the 44, the other Flying Lizard entry right there in front. Seth Nyman behind the wheel as Serzen flashes by.
And watch here, this is where it gets rough. Right as he turns through here, watch the car start bouncing like mad here. right there. It goes through a, see it? Just a, and that was not normally there.
Obviously, that's not just there for show. That is an aerodynamic part of the package, so it needs to work properly. The more it separates, the more it comes apart, the more the handling of that 08 will degrade. So it'll be interesting to see when they elect to make the fix and how they can fix it. Right now, if they could just pull it back up and attach it to the rear bodywork, they may not lose too much. If they let it go for too long, they may suffer more in the end.
It hasn't been getting any worse. It's not been flopping around any worse than it has since we first noticed it. That's the good news. You'd see it just a little bit. They're shaking up and down on these bumps, but you know, I think they can fix that pretty easily. As the Ford Corvette, that's our leader in GT, is on pit road.
Ollie Gavin, really impressive in the Corvette. The Corvette's running very strong. It's Antonio Garcia who's already made a stop back in 6th in GT2, but Gavin, now it's his turn on pit road. Service being done, tires being laid out. I would not expect them to try to double stint tires right now, so I would expect to see 4 new Michelins going on this Corvette. Gavin staying in.
Tears one of the windshield tear screens off. Visibility will be a problem here as the day goes on, not only because of that spent rubber, but these cars do tend to start leaking oil as the day gets long.
And of course, as the sun sets, and we will certainly run until well after sunset, that will be a glare there. That is going to move, Gavin's pit stop is going to move Johannes van Overbeek in the 01 Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari to the front. We talked about what a great job that team has done, how they have developed. Now we're going to have Van Overbeek take over the point.
This is amazing right here. While this car getting serviced, the 3 car, the other Corvette, they saw on telemetry one of the tires losing pressure, so he's got a cut tire and will be coming to pit lane 2. That might be a stroke of luck right there to get the one car out while the other one's about to have to come in, it sounds like.
Seems like an inordinate number of tire failures. It was just simply a cut down tire on the 61 when we saw Salo have his problem. So we've seen a lot of tires going down here today, and we haven't seen that much contact, so you wonder where that's coming from.
Surprisingly, when Lee Diffie and Calvin and I did the opening of the show out on pit lane, before we did that, there was so much debris out on the racetrack. I was actually picking up pieces of bolts and pieces of stuff and throwing it over in the grass. So this racetrack has had a lot of cars on it over this week, and I think there's probably a lot of debris out there.
Johannes van Overbeek has moved his 01 Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari to the point in GT2. Meanwhile, it's Stefan Serrazin who holds down the point overall in his Peugeot, but it is Peugeot, Audi. That is your top 4. That's exactly what we expected from here at Petit Le Mans, the 13th running of this great event. When Dr. Don Panos came up with this concept several years ago, he created a masterpiece, and for the 13th year, we get to enjoy it as it continues right here on Speed, the 13th running of Petit Le Mans.
Quick reminder about the speed.com onboard pass. You can get more. The keyword is Porsche. You can climb behind the wheel of some of your favorite ALMS drivers and get the ultimate 2-screen experience. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with a big thanks to Brian Till, and we welcome you back to Road Atlanta for Petit Le Mans, and there is high drama here. Yes, that is a destroyed R15 Plus, well, the front end of it anyway. Andre Lotterer has had a massive moment, and this is not good at all. Let's show you what happened while we're in the break. Dors, talk us through.
Watch coming down the hill on the outside, dirty part of the racetrack. This is the 3rd tub that's about to been destroyed by hitting those curbs. Now that is a weak spot in the Audi that needs to be addressed. Look at that. I mean, it's completely gutted the front of this car. I don't personally think they'll be able to fix this because they've had to send for a car that Calvin talked about earlier in the show to replace the tub of the last one that got hurt like this.
There's been radio communication from the team, from engineer Lena Gard, asking Andre firstly if he was okay, and then for a report on the car. They could see from our images as to the extent of the damage. If Andre can get the car back to pit road, which is highly likely the case, then a full investigation and assessment will follow. Pits are now open, we understand, and the debris is being scattered from that R15 Plus car number 9.
Saw the rearview mirror fly off, a big chunk of body work out there on the main straightaway as well now.
Dors, we only got to see it once, but how far over was he on that curb? Did he get it dead center?
Yeah, he did. He split it with the front tires, and it just, that the curbing just literally just ripped the hole underneath. Calvin Fisher, of course, was talking about that at the beginning of the show, that they the way these are put back together, they had trouble with their carbon fiber molds not coming out exactly the same way. So they've made the whole under tray of that aluminum. Well, that aluminum, of course, as you see, well, look at replay now, you'll see he'll split that curb right down the center.
It is
and
bang on, isn't it?
completely destroys the tub.
And as you saw, Lotterer pull the carts into the top of pit road, pit in. Brad Kettler, American Brad Kettler, was there to meet him, saying, in here, behind the fence, we're going straight to the hauler, and so all of us can get hands-on and work on that car and try and get it back out. It was placed 4th at the time of the incident. And the reaction from Andre Lotterer says it all. This is a young man, a very talented German driver, who is in his first full year as an Audi driver. Here is the sister car with Dindo Capello on board. Jamie?
Yeah, that's right, Lee. The sister car is on pit road. They just did fuel only. It does not look like they're going to take tires. It was fuel only, but they are going to take the rear bonnet off of this car.
Check the brakes. Just
here on the radio, so just check the brakes.
That's very strange. Rear brakes you wouldn't expect.
They're cleaning out all of the ducting. You saw how dirty the track gets at this point in the race. The sun is out, so there are some marbles out on the course right now. All they're doing is cleaning out the cooling ducting to make sure that they don't have any overheating issues as the race continues. But Justin is down at Peugeot.
Yes, it looks like they're actually having rear bodywork issues. Whether or not they had contact out there, you guys can tell from what you saw earlier, but they had problem fitting it back on. They had to pull it off and put it back on. Otherwise, a standard pit stop. Maybe it's from when McNish touched him earlier.
It was, in fact, that contact with McNish that broke that body piece down there, Justin. We had heard that come over the radio, but they've been watching it, and it wasn't getting any worse, but now it looks like they've got it fixed either way.
And Dorse, did you see what I saw? Spraying some liquid onto the back brake. They've got a rear brake temperature problem, do you think?
Well, I think they did. I mean, and they were cleaning those ducts to try to get that. Now, the rear brakes should never be a problem temperature-wise in one of these cars, but you saw him spraying that liquid up in there to try to reduce brake temp, I would think.
2.5 hours into this race and only the second full course yellow. If you've just joined us, welcome to Speed's flag-to-flag coverage. And the track is being cleaned and cleared due to an incident involving the second Audi driven by German Andre Lotterer. And this will be a relief for the field. Get rid of some of those marbles and a good general track cleanup. What a beautiful day to watch motor racing. We'll be back. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by the new Cayenne. Porsche, there is no substitute. Gorgeous day here in northern Georgia, and it is Championship Day, the season finale of the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron, and this is Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda 2. We are under our second full course yellow. If you've just joined us, welcome. We'll get back to racing in just a moment, but one of the talking points is this car here that we ride with now. It's easily recognizable. It's orange and white, and it's very different looking to the RSRs and the GT Challenge cars, the GTC cars. It is the 911 GT3R Hybrid. It's one of its kind. It ran at the Nürburgring 24 earlier this year. It is leading technology in hybrid from Porsche. And there's also an F1 angle to it. Listen to this piece carefully and you'll find out more.
Oh, it's cool. I mean, we're trying to add performance to efficiency. Everybody knows there's hybrid cars on the road, but it's not always representative of sleek, sexy, competitive. I think that's everything that this car presents, so that's cool from the marketing side. As far as the efficiency side, it's really, really unique that we're storing the energy in a flywheel rather than in batteries. I think that is an advantage in tons of ways, whether it's performance or environmental.
Generally, we have two systems. It's an electrical drivetrain. It was developed by ourselves, and then an electrical flywheel. From the concept, it's similar to the Formula One system from Williams Hybrid Power, so that was a reason to go to Williams Hybrid Power, and they supported us and designed the system due to our requirements.
So it's cool to be at the ground, level with this. I think that a year from now we'll look back and think, oh man, we didn't even know, what we were doing there. But it's cool to be here, and I think it'll be something for the future.
Pretty interesting stuff, isn't it? And Dorse, I know from all of us, we've been looking at it, watching it, we just love that different aero kit, that big rear wing. It's a tough-looking car.
It's a neat car for sure. And I mean, the technology is unbelievable. It's got two 81 horsepower electric motors hooked to the front axles, and they store energy by turning into generators under braking and then pushing that electricity to the flywheel, which can disperse back, turning them back to motors and driving the front wheels. And that's pretty amazing stuff when you think about it.
We're going to switch gears to the prototype and LMPC class for a story with Jamie Howe. Jamie, take it away.
Well, you see the onboard footage right there from the number 99 from G-Oil. You see the ribbon that says Michelle on it. The team is dedicating this race to Kevin Jeanette's sister, Michelle, who is struggling with a hard battle with cancer right now. She's had cancer for several years. It's been a hard-fought battle. They're not sure she's going to make it to the end of this race, so they want to make sure that this race is dedicated to her, and she's surely in the hearts of all the team members this weekend.
So we wish them well in the race. They currently lead the category, and remember the championship battle between this team and the level 5 team. Scott Tucker up against Gunnar Jeanette and the respective drivers in those two teams. So there is a lot on the line here today, professionally and personally. Quick reminder about YouTube. You can catch all the action from the American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patron on its official YouTube channel, ALMS Official Videos. Get your video fix of the American Le Mans Series through YouTube, with more available at AmericanLeMans.com. So the fans get a little bit of a break, so too do the drivers. But we were getting through this race at a very rapid rate. This track is a monster. This event has become a monster, hasn't it? When the weather is good and the racing has been as close as it has in 2010, with all the championships on the line today, the sports car fans turn out en masse. It was a real thrill for Dorsey and Calvin and myself to stand down there on the grid before the race and just see the fans. In the commercial breaks, we got to talk to a lot of them, and the passion is just so high at the moment for this championship, Dorse.
If you want to see fast race cars on a fast racetrack, and that's what people come out to see, this is where you go to see it. These are the fastest cars. It's one of the fastest racetracks. It is awesome to go out there and be just amongst those people and see how much they love this sport.
You're too modest to say it, but quite a few came to see you too.
They remember me wrecking. But they remember.
Well, thank you to the American Le Mans and sports car fans in general for turning out in such a large number. And it is really good for the series to get this shot in the arm, particularly after last year when this place was just a mud bog, wasn't it? And our thoughts 12 months on, and with all of those people in Atlanta, the Atlanta metro and surrounding areas who were so heavily affected by those disastrous floods 1 year ago, that saw Vice President Biden visit the region. And it was huge. It was a massive impact on Atlanta. So we hope that you folks are back on the road to recovery, you're back on your feet, your houses are back in good shape, and we enjoy some warmer weather.
Saw that hillside back there overlooking turn 5 in the S's. That's where, as a kid, I came and sat and watched Mark Donohue. Doesn't seem that long back, but I guess it was.
The track and the facility is in first-class shape at the moment. Speaking with drivers as accomplished as Alex Wirtz and Anthony Davidson earlier this weekend, they were just blown away. Mark Genet's never been here. Davidson has back in 03, but he said, I may as well not have been. I've kind of forgotten it, and I've kind of forgotten just how testing this place really is. We're coming back to green. We're going to go back racing, and you hear the call on the radio. Green, 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 and it's Davidson who leads the race. You look for the Peugeot a little further back up the road. It's the green 99 machine that leads LMPC. In GT2, it's Ollie Gavin for the Corvette fans.
Oh, Guy Smith got really balked right there. It was the only car that didn't make it cleanly through. The GTC competitor, the Porsche right there. It's not the Porsche's fault by any means. It's just on these restarts, things get real dicey.
And Dorse, even though there's been a string of penalties on pit road, there's been a couple of isolated incidents by drivers by themselves. Generally, car on car, the boys have behaved well.
They've done very well, and like Alan McNish was saying before, and I said before, it's because of Bo Barfield's talk in the drivers' meeting and told him, I'm not going to tolerate it, that it's been such a clean race. These cars are way too fast to be mixing it up and doing silly things.
The 07 Peugeot 908 HDI FAP and the diminutive Brit, Anthony Davidson, who came through Formula Fords and F3. He had his eyes set on Formula One. He did reach it, and just as we said, they've been playing well. The Porsche Hybrid is involved in an incident with Mike Rockenfeller, the Le Mans 24-hour winner, and the Oak Racing LMP2 machine.
See the Oak Racing car, I don't see damage on it yet.
Patrice Lafargue is behind the wheel. Still looks okay. Dramas for the Team Saito Sport Porsche Spider, front left.
Bring it in the pits here, guys. We can only have 4 guys working on it.
Yeah, he's got trouble. All of the left-hand side is down. You can see as he's parked on the outside. I wouldn't park there. That's a very bad spot.
Sasha Masson is saying, I can't even get back to the pits.
He could have both left side tires down. I think he does. I think when he pulled over, the left front was down, but I think right now I'm looking at 2 flat tires.
We go yellow again. Third full course caution. Now,
oh, now that, well, I don't know what that is yet.
Nice and easy.
Nice and easy to call for Sasha Masson.
We're getting a report that's fluid coming out of there and smoke, and I think that's out the tailpipe. There's something big has gone wrong here.
On championship day.
Take it nice and easy there.
Look, left front wheel's not moving at all. It's not even turning. This is down on the left front complete.
On championship day, when Greg Pickett's team were hoping for so much, and to get this legendary duo back together of Sasha Masson and Lucas Luhr, along with team regular driver Klaus Graf, the Muscle Milk boys know they have a massive workload ahead if this car can be fixed.
If it's just the rim, I'm not sure. You know, we see the left front is not turning at all. The left rear is flat. So be very careful when you go to turn the wheel because the left front is seized up, okay?
Yeah, I was right. Both tires are flat. Left front is not turning and it's completely down, but the left rear is down too. So I think he's gone off a curb or something like that to do damage like this.
And this is where years of experience come into play. To nurse a wounded car, he's having trouble navigating it and steering it, getting it back online. This is where all the years of experience that Sasha Masson has to try and minimize the damage.
He's in pit lane right there. That's coming down the hill. He's on the pit road, but
He's wrong with the left steering.
Now this is going to be a little tricky, Dorse.
yeah, it's going to be hard to get that car up in the air anyway. But I think there's going to be substantial damage to the suspension up there in the left front. It's hard to say at this point. You know, the only thing that throws me off on this is the fact that it's got a rear tire down on the same side, which and there's a tire mark right behind the wheel. So I think he's made side-to-side contact with another car.
I wonder if it was involved with the Oak Racing prototype.
I think this is pretty sure contact with another car side-to-side that's done this.
All right, Jamie's on the spot. Jamie, what do you see?
Well, there is damage to the side of the car, a lot of it actually, and I spoke with Jeff right as the car was about to come into pit lane, and he said that they did have contact, but he doesn't know who it was with either. So the team is taking the tires off right now, obviously doing all 4 tires. They are checking all the suspension work as well, just to make sure that everything is still intact. It does look like it could have been a hard hit because it did puncture through the bodywork on the side pod. These cars are kind of brittle, but they're not too bad. They are made for racing, so it does have to take a lot of impact in order to do some pretty good damage to it. Tires still coming off, team taking a good look around. They were already down just a little bit. It's a frustrating day for, yes, there is lots of damage to the rim here on this car. You can see how big that impact was. Frustrating day for them. They were down on power, but they said they still wanted to keep going in it, as we've talked about all race long. They said we're not in too bad a shape. We just have to stay out of trouble, and this trouble certainly isn't going to help them with finishing this one.
You can tell by that wheel that another wheel nut had got inside there. You can see where it had broken out all of the little veins on the left front. So he had actually got into the side. We have a replay of this, and we'll take a look and see, but you can see that's a wheel mark right there, a big one too. Putting bear bonds on it. Take a look here.
There he is there. He's running very, very slow, so it's already happened.
Already happened, sure.
Yep. And then in the traffic jam, that's when the GT3 Hybrid and the Oak Racing P2 car got together.
That was just a miscue right there. They all stacked up, like you said, Lee. The damage to the Porsche done before that, it was already down.
And more than likely in this section of the track, coming up into the Turn 3 complex on that restart. So they were able to send Sasha Masson and the Team Saito Sport Muscle Milk Porsche. Let's see if it returns to speed. We'll find out. We are back at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans continues, however, at a much reduced pace. We are still under our third full course caution. If you've just joined us, this is the reason why the Muscle Milk Porsche RS Spider, driven by multi-time series champion Sasha Masson, we have not been able to identify exactly where it happened. More than likely up at the turn 3 complex, there was contact with car number 6. And by the time we caught it, he was already running at a rapidly reduced pace, Dorse, wasn't he? And limping back to pits, and it was enough to bring his car to a standstill exiting turn 7 and slowly making his way back to pit road.
Saw the front wheel was broken, and one of the spokes of the front wheel actually went inside, got into the suspension, and stopped the wheel from turning completely, and he had to drive it back on that left front Ivan rolling. Also had a left rear down, and that was probably due to a valve stem getting knocked off in the side-to-side contact with whomever.
Coming through turn 5, it caused a bit of a log jam, a traffic jam, and at the back of that, keep an eye on the pink and black car a little further down the road. It is Patrice Lafargue, and he gets kind of a little bit balked by the cars checking up in front, and he spins all by himself and then comes right across the front of the 911 GT3R Hybrid. This is the view from Mike Rockenfeller.
And watch Mike right here. He has really nothing he can do but taking avoidance to the left. A little contact right there. I don't think it did much.
And that was the view from Le Mans 24 winner Mike Rockenfeller. So we're still cruising nice and slow, and we will get our way back to racing as quickly as we possibly can. It's time to welcome in Kathleen Hogan from the Department of Energy, the DOE, and who we know has been a very valuable partner of the American Le Mans Series. Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong, for the past 2, maybe even 3 years. It's terrific to have government support in motor racing and with the American Le Mans Series, and that support continues.
Yes, and I'm delighted to be here and to be part of the event today. The Le Mans Series really has been a great partner in green racing and demonstrating that you can have high performance with clean, efficient vehicles.
The Porsche 911 GT3 Hybrid visited our nation's capital a little earlier, and there was a lot of interest, there was a lot of enthusiasm about it. Were agencies like the DOE able to leverage something from that and say, look, this is why we're involved with the American Le Mans Series?
Absolutely. There was a great event in D.C., I think just a little over a week ago. A lot of people came out to see the car. And got a good look at that great flywheel sitting up there in the passenger seat. So I think people can see what the Le Mans Series is able to help create, innovate, and put on the track. And of course, we just love it that all the people in the stands here can see what it can do, and then who knows when it'll be on the road for us, right?
Absolutely. For all of us who have been involved in motor racing all of our lives, whether it be all the way back to go-karts and motorcycles, all the way through to high-level racing like this, a lot of the time in our own lives, at dinner parties or whatever, we've had to defend ourselves for being involved in this sport by people saying, well, you're polluting the environment or whatever you're doing. What is the DOE's position with the American Le Mans Series, and where does it go from here? How do you say, hey, this isn't necessarily harmful, this is doing good for us and for passenger vehicles?
That's a great question. I mean, I think we all know that we've got some great challenges here in this country. We've got to reduce carbon emissions. It would be great to use less foreign imported oil. And how are we going to do that other than through innovation and technology and actually being optimistic about where we can go with technology? And I think the Green Racing Series just helps us do all of that.
Back to racing, speaking of that, and Anthony Davidson leads Dindo Capello and Stefan Zarazin. Peugeot, Audi, Peugeot 1, 2, 3, and Davidson is running high on spirit and on confidence at the moment, Dorse, after that magnificent win in the Le Mans Series finale, Silverstone, the first round of the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup just a few weeks back. So he really wants to keep that on a roll.
Dindo Capello, the only Audi in between that Peugeot sandwich, if you will. The one thing you really can notice between the two cars when they go down the straightaway, the Peugeot's once again really blowing the black smoke out the sides. On both sides you see the exhaust, meaning that they're really running a lot of horsepower through the turbo TDI on those.
So we get back up and keep an eye on Sarazin. He's looking to mount a move on Dindo Capello. Is he close enough? Yes, he is. He pulls out of the draft and he hits him. Stefan Sarazen hits Capello and turns himself around in the process.
Wasn't clearly alongside enough, and then Dindo turned in and they made contact. Now, did it do much damage that will require another pit stop? Doesn't look to have.
And at 3 hours into the race, they're the kind of moves that frustrate team leaders and program managers. It's the first flying lap of a restart. They say think about it and think carefully. Be 100% sure about those moves. Let's take another look from high above and pick through the finer points of this move. Dorsey, see, did he do the right thing? Did he do the wrong thing? You kind of saw him think twice about it.
He didn't. It looked like he was going to back away. Now he goes in, but shallow entry to the corner, and Dindo just really, I don't think, knew he was in there. Certainly wasn't squared off alongside of him enough to where he could see it. Again, this is a better view of it. Watch now. The last minute he decides, yeah, I can do it, so I'm going to go in there. Dindo's already committed from turning from the outside. Contact made. Yeah, it is frustrating. There's no question about it because it's an avoidable contact. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's a possibility he could, on top of this, get a penalty for avoidable contact because I would have deemed that the Peugeot's fault.
And you can see that sometimes we see just how fragile these prototypes are. On other occasions, you see just how robust they are because that was a pretty decent knock from Stefan Sarazen to Dindo Capello.
And, you know, we're hearing that there will be no penalty, and I'll tell you why that is, too, because, again, just like in David Murray's case earlier, it was a self-imposed penalty. He spun himself out.
We still have Kathleen Hogan with us here from the DOE. One final question to you, Kathleen, if you don't mind. There are various racing series around the world, all the way up to Formula One, that like to say they are taking a green initiative and they are trying to do something in the right direction. Have you been impressed with the way that the American Le Mans Series has very quickly become a world leader?
Yes, indeed, it is impressive what the Green Le Mans Series has been able to do, and I think right now they really are the world leader in green racing, and hopefully they can keep that that challenge up and see if some of the others can make more progress in that direction.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you for taking some time out of your day, and enjoy the rest of the race.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
And it's fabulous to have the DOE, the Department of Energy, involved with the American Le Mans Series and the Green Racing Initiative. So out in front is Anthony Davidson and enjoying his time there. Will there be any long-term effects for the third place 08 of Stefan Sarazen? It's too early to tell. We'll find out a little later as we welcome Calvin Fish back to the speed booth. What did you think about that one, mate?
Well, it was late. I mean, he didn't just do the natural thing, Dorsey. He's thought about it, then maybe there's a chance I'd get in there, and it's just a blunder of a move, really.
And I don't think it did any damage to the car because that was a very slow part of the racetrack, and it wasn't much of a hit. Just enough to turn you right. You know, that it was awkward. I mean, he looked at it, and he didn't commit, and then at the last minute he goes, no, I'll just go ahead on.
And I think Dindo was being conservative. We talk about these diesel-powered cars, how difficult they are on relatively cold tires. I think Dindo was being cautious on the entry there, and suddenly Stefan was in no man's land. Should I go, should I not? Decided to go, and then it was way too late. Just got out of step with Dindo.
Hey, speaking of Peugeot and Audi, how about that second Audi and the one that was damaged at the hands of Andre Lotterer? Jamie has an update.
Yep, the car is back out on track right now. Lee just took it out of pit lane not long ago. They just talked to Brad Kettler, and he said they had to replace the floor, they had to replace the left front suspension, and just tons and tons of bodywork and dirt, but they said the team was well prepared for it. These are things that they practiced. They had all of their spares already set up to their current race setup and ready to go out on the car, so all they had to do was get it back to the garage, make those changes, clean it up, and now it's back out on track.
Calvin, they should be getting good at it. It's the third one this week.
It has been an expensive week. Here we see problems for the Ford GT, the 40 machine. First of the two Robertson Racing entries here this weekend.
Was that just an innocent spin at the top of the hill at turn 3? Perhaps so. There doesn't appear to be any obvious damage. There is the Patron Highcroft HPD trying to weave its way through GTC traffic, and that is David Brabham, defending series champion, behind the wheel, and he runs in the 5th position overall. It's Davidson by some 3 seconds. Capello, Sarazen and Field, all P1 cars. Then Brabs. Guy Smith is 6th, and Johnny Cocker. Then Sasha Masson is 8th, and the first LMPC car, Elton Julian. In GT2, Ollie Gavin still leads the way. You can get more and check out all the ALMS extras at speed.com, including video highlights, expert analysis, driver blogs, photo galleries, and feature stories. It's all waiting for you at speed.com, the American Le Mans Series section. What's got your attention there, Dawes?
My barbecue pit over here. I got a smoker. I got to find that guy.
That looks good, doesn't it? We welcome you back to a beautiful day at Road Atlanta as we are on board one of the ESM Patron Ferraris. And Joao Barbosa, one of the most underrated sports car drivers, not here in the US, in the world. This Portuguese driver is fast. He's quietly spoken. He doesn't go out there and beat his own drum, but he does it when he's behind the wheel of a race car. He's a Rolex 24 at Daytona winner. He's brilliant at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and it's great to see him in a good ride here at Petit Le Mans.
It really is, and this car has really been on song. Unfortunately, they've lost a few laps through some drama earlier in this race, but this car was qualified third by Guy Cosmo, and what a swan song for the Ferrari 430. This should be their final race in an official capacity. We're switching to the 458 model for next year. And what did they do? 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the grid.
And guess, speaking with Derek Granison from the team yesterday, he said, we've got one car for sale, which is the 01. The 02 they're going to keep, and that's going to be a training car for Ed Brown. He's going to drive that as often as he can while they get the 458 sorted out. But it's important for them to have something similar for the team owner to drive and just to stay in the groove in the off-season. How important is that, Dawes?
That's extremely important, no question about it. The best thing you can do is just continue to drive race cars. I mean, that was one of the big advantages that we, Calvin, me, Brian, all of us worked as instructors for Skip Barber Racing School. It kept us in a racing car every single day, a huge advantage.
Here's a time check for you as you see the Highcroft HPD flash on by, 2 Patron-sponsored cars. Up front, Anthony Davidson has had his lead evaporated just slightly, but Dindo Capello is setting consistent lap times and has brought that margin down at the top of the race for overall honours down to 2.3 seconds. Another thing we should add at this early point in time is that we are currently on race record pace. Despite 3 full course cautions, it has been a cracking pace.
It really has. Unfortunately for Audi, if they analyze fastest laps so far in this race, the 07's fastest lap that Davidson's currently driving, it was earlier in the race, was a 108.8. Their fastest a 109.3. However, the 08 car, I believe when Montani was behind the wheel, set at 108.1. So it seems like the Peugeot have a little bit of speed in hand if they need it at the end of this race.
Enjoying plenty of onboard views here for you. We're switching around to various cars. We ride here with the 45 Flying Lizard Porsche. It's currently placed 4th in class. And speaking of 4th, the driver behind the wheel, Mark Lee, has just clinched his 4th Le Mans Series title over in Europe with Austrian partner Richard Lietz. And he is some driver behind the wheel of a Porsche 911 RSR.
And they're just very comfortable bringing him in. You think with the championship on the line, maybe they just want to go with Jörg and Pat Long to try and bring it home. No, he just slides in perfectly. Now we're on board with the Ferrari.
Uh-oh, they're together again.
They're about to be
at the
together
same
again.
corner that they hit last time, up through turn 6. Fortunately, this time it's all right. The 61 gets through.
We're on a different lap. Salo currently runs 2nd and has a lap over Jimmy Bruni, who's in the other red Ferrari, which is not far behind his gearbox right now.
That's for sure.
It's a special mark for Mika Salo and Jamie Mello here today. They're going for their 3rd consecutive class win at this event at Petit Le Mans in the GT2 class.
The reason that Jimmy Bruni is 1 lap down, remember Tony Vilander had that penalty assessed for bumping into Dave Murray down in turn 6. Stop and go plus a minute. You lose over 30 seconds just coming down pit lane plus that minute. That put them in the position they're in right now. Otherwise, they'd be running like this on the same lap.
What do you do if you're Giuseppe Risi? You've got these amazing factory drivers at your disposal. You had to switch driver lineups because a couple of them didn't really get on. And now you've got 2 beautiful 430s out there on track and they hit each other. I mean, that's a little bit of a headache for an established team, isn't it?
That's a big headache.
Giuseppe's had a few headaches this year. I mean, it hasn't been the smoothest of years for that team, even though they're still in the hunt for many championships here today. It could have been so much more.
Turn 5, that is a traffic problem on this track as they build back up to speed through 6. We ride here with American hot shoe, a great young talent in Joey Hand. He's
He's going to be very frustrated. That starter motor issue. Dirk Mueller had a similar penalty to Tony Vielander, a stop and go for contact with Shane Lewis. But then this 90 car on a subsequent pit stop and the starter motor failure cost them many, many laps to get this car back out on the racetrack. So BMW's chances of that manufacturer's title really lay in the hands of the 92 car, you'd have to feel today.
In GT2, Ollie Gavin, for Corvette fans, is your man. He leads over Salo, Dominic Farnbacher, Mark Lieb, Antonio Garcia, and then Jimmy Bruni is 6th. Dirk Werner in that 92 BMW that Calvin was just talking about is 7th in class.
There's one of my old students leading in the LMPC category, Elton Julian. Pretty trouble-free day so far.
Is he leading because it's a good car, or he's a good driver, or he was your student?
Yes.
Well, it's good. Elton is not in the championship chase. His teammate Gunnar Jeanette is, who is deadlocked with Scott Tucker. But it's been a good year for Elton after climbing aboard the Geor machine at the beginning of the year at the 12 hours, the Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring.
Wasn't in a race car for quite a long time. When he got back behind the wheel, it didn't take him long to get the old feeling back.
I was talking about Julian earlier this morning. Just such a great personality to have in this series. His wife and his daughter were out here this morning wishing him good luck. He was introducing me to his wife, and he said, you know, it's funny. She always asks me, are you excited? Are you nervous? And he said, no, I'm neither. I'm just ready. I'm just ready to go out there and drive. He truly loves racing, and I know he's had such a fun time in this car this year, and he's hoping to come back next year for some more.
He's really got a new lease on his career. He'd really kind of been put on the shelf and forgotten about, and got the call from Kevin Jeanette. Listen, we're putting this LMPC program together. Are you interested? And he said, absolutely. He's come on board. They've scored 4 wins together. Unfortunately, he missed the Miller Motorsports Park round, so he's split on points with his teammate Gunnar Jeanette, but done a great job. He's been partnered with Gunnar when they've had the 4 wins this year.
You know what else would be nice? And obviously we've got a tied championship in LMPC and nothing against Level 5 or Scott Tucker, but what would be nice, a nice story if these guys won, is that team principal and owner Kevin Jeanette was the very first one to step up and say, I'm buying an LMPC. I'm going to support this class. When Scott Atherton and Scott Elkin said, here, this is the direction we're taking, it was Kevin Jeanette who said, I'll buy the first one.
It was exactly 1 year ago when they let the rest of the world see this LMPC car. The day after Petit last year, they invited a bunch of teams along, and Kevin was the first one to step up to the plate and stump a check right in someone's hand.
Here he is, the forceful Frenchman. 1993 24 Hours of Le Mans winner. And he is trying to fly the flag and push the car for his team owner and teammate Scott Tucker at the moment. Gunnar Jeanette boasts a 4-point advantage for the positions they run at the moment.
Gunnar leads, or Gunnar's car leads, and Scott Tucker's cars are running 2nd and 3rd. Boucher behind the wheel of the 2nd place car, the number 95. Actually, that's, yes, 55, should I say, and Scott Tucker behind the wheel of the 95 right now. So he's got 2 shots at it, and that's really a great advantage to have in this championship chase.
We gave you a full rundown through the top 10 a little earlier. You haven't missed a thing. You haven't missed anything up front. Anthony Davidson in his Works Peugeot still leads, and he stretched the lead, in fact, to 5.2 seconds. First to second over Dindo Capello. There are your class leaders as we go to the break. This Audi v Peugeot fight continues, and you get the feeling it's going to go all the way to the end. Petit Le Mans 2010 continues. It's the 13th consecutive year of this amazing event. We need to update you on our Michelin Green X Challenge and who is doing what in the various categories. Drayson Racing continues to lead. They've been a multiple winner of this competition throughout the 2010 season. Peugeot is well placed also. And as far as GT is concerned, the 92 Ray Hall Letterman, BMW Ray Hall Letterman M3 is leading the way over the Risi Competizione Ferrari, the 61 car there. So we'll continue to keep updated on that, and we will explain more about the Michelin Green X Challenge. 8 hours and 56 minutes is the fastest race time ever from the previous 12 years, and it was set in 1999, the second event in the history of Petit Le Mans. We are on target to break that at the moment. Although there has been one of the largest fields in the history of Petit Le Mans, there have not been all that many collisions, not as many as we were expecting. Yes, track density is high, but the fast cars have been able to weave their way through fairly effectively.
They really have, and you can see Anthony Davison right there coming down through the S's. Very, very conservative, was taking no chances. He realizes that you can lose this race in just one small mistake. So he's really doing what he said he would do the other night when we sat down with him. He said, I'm going to be super conservative. He then consequently went out and stuffed it, running into someone in the night practice. But right now in race conditions, I'm sure the team bosses have sat them down and said, listen, we have very fast race cars. We want to consolidate our lead in the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup, which they currently lead after a 1-2 finish at Silverstone. So there's a lot on the line here. We talk about this race, but they're also in the middle, round 2 of a 3-race championship as well.
This is Italian driver Dindo Capello. His real name is Ronaldo, but he goes by Dindo and has done for many, many years. And it goes back to a story when he and his little brother grew up in the Italian village, and there was the church bell, and it used to ring, and he couldn't say ding dong, and he would say Dindo, and so his brother nicknamed him Dindo Capello, and he is the most successful driver at this event. Audi has won 9 of the 12, and this man here has won 5 of them.
Yeah, a remarkable record here, and he was pretty devastated. I spoke to him about the incident yesterday where the monocoque got destroyed coming up through turn 3. He said, I just had a little wiggle in the back end of the car. I decided rather than spin, I'd just drive straight across. Well, he hit that curb, and obviously as a very suspect part on the car, this R15 Plus, that it can be that much damage to the point that can no longer continue. Now this car, we mentioned it in the open this morning, this is the Le Mans winning car. It sat in a museum at Ingolstadt until the middle of this week, and when they had a problem earlier in the week at the test day, they said we've got to have another spare, so they flew it over just in case something went wrong, and boy, they're lucky they did. Otherwise we'd only have one Audi in the field here today.
2 complete rebuilds. Is that going to be part of a remarkable story? Audi has certainly written plenty of chapters in the Petit Le Mans book, like several years ago when Alan McNish crashed on the outlap, came from a 2-lap down deficit to win in the dying moments under the lights. So we'll find out if that is part of the story. Hey, we need to update you on the sister Audi R15 Plus, Andre Lotterer. You remember he crashed right here at the bottom of the hill, the compression section heading up to turn 5. He lost 15 laps and is down in 9th place in class, rather I should say 7th in class and 16th overall.
Still a remarkable performance by Brad Kettler and all the boys there at Team Yost in getting that car put back together. There we see the car back on track right now. And that is major, major damage, but they rehearsed that. They rehearsed the component changes, particularly for Le Mans, because they realized you got to get back in the game. Here we see some of those little fender grills being blown out. The more rubber that gets thrown around this racetrack, it really balls up almost like a snowball, and that will collect underneath the wheel arches, and finally it'll drop down. What will happen then, the wheel will spit it back up and burst through those fender grills.
You know, we use it as a line, and it goes a lot deeper than just a marketing or an advertising line. They really are world-class drivers here today, best in the world. This young man, this young German, Andre Lotterer, has literally just jetted in from Sugo in northern Japan, where he was competing in the Formula Nippon Championship. He's a regular competitor and a champion in Japanese Super GT, but he also still keeps his open wheel career going in Formula Nippon. He's running 4th in that championship with a couple of rounds to go. He'll return to Japan shortly thereafter, so he has really built a career. He was on his way to Formula One. He was a Jaguar test driver, didn't quite get there in the end, didn't get a testing role, and then turned, like many, like Ralph Furman and many others who have gone on to make quite good paychecks in Japan, and then he's been able to weave sports cars into his resume as well and do very, very well. Finish on the podium at Le Mans this year. Gunnar Jeanette is climbing behind the wheel. Is it too early to say champion-elect? I think it's way too early, but he's in the box seat.
I think the first thing is for all these teams, 70% distance, so that they're in a position to score points, and then you go from there. And ultimately, if both Tucker's cars and Gunnar's car here today get to 70%, and it's effectively whoever finishes in front of the other will claim the championship. They're tied in every possible way. Jamie?
I am down at the 99 pit, Calvin, and it looks like he's having trouble getting the car restarted. Gunnar was just shaking his head. You could hear him pushing the button on the wheel to restart it. It would not refire, so the team is going to take the nose off of the car now. Take a look at all of it. Very frustrating day for them right now. They're doing everything they can. As you said before, the car does have to refire on its own power, so the team's trying to make that happen today. But it looks like the team's going to get to work now.
This has been a problem not only for the 99, we saw it for the 90 BMW. Chris Neville is back on deck.
There's another problem, I think, Jamie. He's wiggling the steering like there's something in the steering rack has gone amiss. I think the reason he's not firing it back up is because he recognized there's a big problem. We saw Elton Julian get out. I thought he had a little shake of the head, like something's gone adrift in the front steering of this race car.
They're going to push it behind the wall.
And I tell you what, if you have to start getting into the steering rack on one of these prototypes, that is lengthy delay. I know speaking to the Audi boys at Le Mans, they said, forget about it. That is just one area we cannot afford to go in terms of the time lost. We know Gunnar is brave. Maybe they said, you know what, there's nothing we can do. Is he taking this back to the garage, or is he taking this back on track right now?
We're about to find out. He's just feeling for it now, seeing how bad it is. Now, if this car makes a sharp turn to the right, you know that he's headed back to the hauler.
Well, that's if it does it intentionally.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, he's heading back.
Jamie?
I just checked with the team, guys, and he is taking it back to the garage area. It is a problem that they're having in the steering rack, so team is going to meet him over at the transporter, and they're going to get to work.
Championship rival Scott Tucker is sitting in second place and will inherit the lead in the LMPC class. Christophe Bouchou is there as well.
Remember, Scott Tucker started the 55 car here today. You got to do 50 laps in each respective car to score points. So Scott Tucker to get points in either one of those cars, and he can choose the best place finish. He still has to do 50 laps in each car.
So the revised order in LMPC is now Christophe Bouchou, Scott Tucker, and that 99 car we just saw return behind the wall is now dropped to third. Meanwhile, this is our overall and race leader, Anthony Davidson, 3.9 seconds out in front of Dindo Capello. That lead fluctuates. It's been as high as 5.5 seconds. It's been as low as 2 seconds. Got to be traffic impacting there.
Absolutely. He takes a bit of a gamble around the outside there, clears that traffic nicely, but you just got to pick your moments.
It's a smooth run in just his second Petit Le Mans experience. Last time round was 7 years ago in a Pro Drive Ferrari 550 Maranello. Quick reminder about Race Hub on AmericanLeMans.com has all the content you need to follow the American Le Mans Series, including live timing and scoring, which is so important, American Le Mans Series radio, an online spotter's guide, and many other features. All you got to do is go to AmericanLeMans.com and stay with us for the entire day. We've got flag-to-flag coverage on Speed.